The wedding of the year turned into the scandal of the century, when Chloe, a small-town baker, prepared to marry billionaire Marcus Thorne. The city's elite gathered to watch. But one guest, the groom's vengeful ex, Genevieve Sterling, wasn't there to celebrate. In front of hundreds, she deliberately poured a scalding hot urn of coffee directly onto the bride's white dress. As Chloe cried out in pain and humiliation, the room fell silent, waiting for the groom's reaction. But the billionaire's response wasn't just shocking, it was a financial execution that left everyone speechless. The ballroom at the Plaza Hotel in New York City was a sea of crystal and starlight. It wasn't just a wedding, it was a merger of two worlds that had onlookers baffled and society columnists salivating. Marcus Thorne, the 34-year-old Silicon Prince of Thorne Industries, a man who moved markets with a single tweet, was marrying Chloe Jenkins, a 28-year-old baker from Oak Haven, Oregon. The press had dubbed it the billionaire and the baker. To the Thorne family, it was a social catastrophe. Beatrice, darling, the flowers are simply rustic, a woman with a face pulled taut by surgery whispered to the groom's mother. Beatrice Thorne, a woman who looked as if she were carved from expensive ice, forced a smile. Chloe has a charming simplicity, don't you think? The charming simplicity was costing Marcus 7 figures. Peonies and wildflowers, which Chloe loved, had been flown in from Holland and arranged to look effortlessly natural. The guest list was a volatile mix. Chloe's family, her father David, a carpenter, and her mother Mary, a retired nurse, sat awkwardly in their rented tuxedos and off-the-rack gowns, while tech moguls, senators, and fourth-generation socialites populated the Thorne side of the aisle. And then there was Genevieve Sterling. Genevieve was the woman Marcus was supposed to marry. She was the daughter of Arthur Sterling, the old money energy tycoon of Sterling Holdings. A marriage between Marcus and Genevieve would have sealed a $500 million merger uniting the old world's power with the new world's technology. But Marcus chose Chloe. Genevieve sat at a front table, a vision in emerald green silk, her smile a thin, dangerous line. She watched the ceremony with a predator's stillness. When Marcus kissed Chloe, the applause was thunderous, but Genevieve merely lifted her champagne flute in a toast so slow it was an insult. The reception began. The mood was electric, if tense. David, Chloe's father, gave a tearful, simple speech about his daughter's kindness. Then, Marcus took the microphone. "I have everything," he said, his voice, usually so commanding in boardrooms, softening as he looked at his wife. "I have the company, the skyline, the pressure, but I was never happy. Not really. Not until I met a woman who didn't know my last name and didn't care. She offered me a slice of apple pie in a small-town diner when my car was broken down, and she changed my life. To my wife, Chloe, thank you for showing me what's real." The room awed. Chloe, her eyes shining, was radiant. Her dress wasn't a Vera Wang. It was her mother's, modernized by a young, unknown designer. It was priceless to her. As the couple prepared for their first dance, the catering staff began the coffee service. A young waiter, Miguel, navigated the crowded floor with a heavy, silver urn of black coffee. Genevieve Sterling stood up, smoothing her dress. She moved not toward the dance floor, but toward the main thoroughfare. "Excuse me, darling," she purred to a guest, stepping directly into Miguel's path. It happened in a horrifying slow motion. Miguel, seeing the high-value guest, tried to swerve. Genevieve's foot shot out, a subtle, practiced trip. Miguel stumbled forward, his arms windmilling for balance. The urn tipped. A tidal wave of scalding black coffee cascaded forward, not onto the floor, but directly onto Chloe. A scream pierced the music. It was Chloe. The coffee wasn't just staining, it was hot. It soaked the front of her dress, the delicate lace turning a sickening brown as the heat met her skin. She cried out, a sound of pure shock and pain. The music stopped. Every guest, hundreds of them, turned. Genevieve Sterling brought a hand to her mouth, her eyes wide with fake horror. "Oh my goodness," she gasped, her voice carrying across the silent room. "I am so sorry. You poor thing. Miguel, you clumsy oaf. You've ruined her. Look at that dress. But then again, it's probably not couture, is it? Perhaps it's for the best." Chloe stood there, trembling, the front of her dress destroyed, red blotches appearing on her chest and arms. Tears of humiliation and pain streamed down her face. She looked at Genevieve, and through the performance, she saw the truth. A cold, triumphant smirk. Chloe turned and fled the ballroom. Marcus Thorne stood frozen for 1 second, his face pale. Then, his eyes, usually a calm blue, hardened into something that looked like Arctic ice. He looked from his fleeing wife to the waiter, Miguel, who was stammering, "Sir, I don't know." Then he looked at Genevieve Sterling. The room held its breath. The Billionaire Groom's wedding was in ruins. His response would define the night. To understand what happened next, you have to understand how Marcus and Chloe met. It wasn't a meet cute in the Hamptons. 6 months prior, Marcus Thorne was on the verge of a breakdown. The Sterling merger was suffocating him. It was a deal his late father had orchestrated, a dynastic move to secure the Thorne legacy. Marcus was expected to marry Genevieve, a woman he found beautiful, intelligent, and utterly hollow. He did the unthinkable. He turned off his phone, told his board he was off-grid, and drove west in an anonymous Tesla. He didn't know where he was going. He just drove until the engine died. It died in Oakhaven, Oregon. Population 1,200. He walked into the only diner, the Oakhaven Pantry, feeling ridiculous in his $3,000 Loro Piana jacket. The woman behind the counter didn't look up. "Sit anywhere. Pie's fresh," she said, wiping down an espresso machine. That was Chloe. He sat at the counter. "My car, it just died, outside of town." "That'll be the Oakhaven welcome," she said, sliding him a coffee. "Mechanics closed till Monday. You're stuck." "Monday?" Marcus felt panic. I have a merger. I need to be in New York." Chloe finally looked at him. She saw a tired, handsome man who looked like he was about to jump out of his skin. She didn't see a billionaire. She saw a guy in a jam. "Well," she said, sliding him a menu, "you're not in New York. You're in Oakhaven. The special is meatloaf. My name's Chloe. What's yours?" "Mark," he said, the name of his college roommate. Just Mark. For 4 days he was Mark. He stayed in the town's only motel. He ate every meal at the diner. Chloe, sensing he was wound tighter than a watch spring, put him to work. "You're making me jittery," she said on day 2. "Grab an apron. You can knead dough." He was, to his surprise, terrible at it. "You've got to be strong, but gentle," she instructed, her hands, covered in flour, guiding his. "You're trying to force it. You have to persuade it." He was captivated. She spoke about bread the way he spoke about code, with passion and precision. He fixed her broken espresso machine, an easy task for him. He listened as she talked about her dream of expanding the town's tiny community center, which was falling apart. "The kids here? They don't have much," she'd said, wiping down the counter. "They deserve a safe place to learn, to read. The roof is leaking, and the town council just doesn't have the funds." He felt a pang of shame. He could buy this town 10 times over. He was Mark, the guy with the broken car, but he was also Marcus Thorne, the man about to sign a $500 million deal that would make his family richer, but wouldn't help anyone. On the last night, before his car was fixed, they sat on the diner's roof, looking at the stars. "You're a good listener, Mark," she said, "but you're holding something back. You're running from something." "It's complicated," he said. "It's a business deal, an arranged future. It's not me." "Well," she said, brushing flour off her jeans, "whoever you are, you seem like a good person. Don't let them change that. Life's too short to be someone else's idea." When he left, he paid his bill in cash and left a $1,000 tip. Chloe tried to return it, but he was already gone. 2 weeks later, a black limousine pulled up outside the Oakhaven pantry. Marcus Thorne walked in, wearing a bespoke suit. Chloe dropped a tray of muffins. "Mark?" "My name is Marcus Thorne," he said, his heart pounding. "I lied about my name, but I didn't lie about anything else. I'm running from an arranged future, and I can't do it. Not after meeting you." He'd come to say thank you. He ended up staying for another week. He flew her to New York. He called off the Sterling merger talks. He told his mother, Beatrice, that he was in love. Beatrice Thorne investigated Chloe and found nothing. No pedigree, no wealth, no connections. She was a non-entity. "Marcus, she is a baker," Beatrice had hissed. "She will be eaten alive in this world. The Sterlings will ruin you for this insult." "Let them try," Marcus had said. 3 months later, he proposed on the same diner roof in Oakhaven. Now, at his wedding, Beatrice's words seemed like a prophecy. Chloe was being eaten alive, and the Sterlings, in the form of Genevieve, were the ones holding the fork. The moment the ballroom door slammed shut behind her, Chloe's composure shattered. She ran down the marble hallway, a trail of dirty coffee dripping from the hem of her dress. The pain was secondary now. The humiliation was a physical, crushing weight. She could hear the whispers, feel the stares of the staff she passed. She fumbled with the keycard to the bridal suite, a vast, opulent room that had felt like a palace an hour ago, and now felt like a prison. She slammed the door, ripped the ruined, sticky veil from her hair, and collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. It wasn't just a dress. It was her mother's. It was the symbol of her new life, and it had been defiled in seconds. Genevieve's words echoed in her head. "It's probably not couture, is it?" A sharp knock rapped on the door. "Chloe, open this door." It wasn't Marcus. It was his mother. Chloe wiped her eyes, her hands trembling. She opened the door. Beatrice Thorne swept in, her face a mask of cold fury. She didn't look at Chloe's dress or her tear-stained face. She looked at the door. "You are an embarrassment," Beatrice said, her voice low and sharp. Chloe flinched. "Beatrice, It doesn't matter what it was," Beatrice snapped. "It matters what it looked like. You made a scene. You ran. You, my dear, just proved to every single person in that room that you do not belong here. Genevieve Sterling plays games you don't even know the rules to, and you just lost, spectacularly." "She poured coffee on me," Chloe cried, the injustice stinging more than the burn. "And you let her win." Beatrice stepped closer. "You think you're the first person to be insulted in New York society? You take it. You smile. You hold your head high, and you destroy them later, quietly. You never run. You have humiliated my son. You have ruined this entire event. All of our most important investors and partners are downstairs, watching this circus." Beatrice walked to the window, looking down at Central Park. "I warned Marcus. I told him you weren't strong enough. You are a sweet girl, Chloe, but you are a field mouse in a snake pit. Perhaps it's best you realize that now. Fix your face. Or better yet, stay here. I will go down and make excuses for you." Beatrice turned and left, leaving Chloe alone in the silence, colder than before. The burn on her chest was throbbing, but the wound in her heart was deeper. Beatrice was right. She didn't belong. She was a baker from Oregon. She was in over her head. The dream was a nightmare. She looked at her phone, her fingers hovering over her father's name, wanting nothing more than to go home. Meanwhile, downstairs, the ballroom was a war zone of whispers. Marcus had moved instantly. He first rushed to the waiter, Miguel, who was pale and shaking, being held by hotel security. "Are you all right?" Marcus asked. "Sir, she tripped me. I swear, I know," Marcus said, his voice grim. "Do not go anywhere. Do not speak to anyone." He then turned to his own head of security, a formidable man named Mr. Harrison, who was never more than 10 feet from Marcus. Harrison was ex-Mossad and saw everything. "Get the footage," Marcus said, his voice a low growl. "Sir, get the ballroom security footage, all angles, and check the guest recordings. I want every second of that accident. I want it now. In my private study, off the mezzanine. Go." Harrison nodded and melted into the crowd. Marcus then strode to the center of the dance floor. He tapped the microphone, silencing the frantic whispers. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice echoing with controlled power. "My apologies for the interruption. There has been a small accident. My wife, Chloe, is completely unharmed. Merely changing. Please enjoy the champagne. The music will resume momentarily." He turned to the Sterling table. Arthur Sterling, Genevieve's father, approached him, his face a mask of concern. "Marcus, my boy, dreadful business. Simply dreadful. Genevieve is beside herself, absolutely mortified. She's in the powder room, crying her eyes out." Marcus looked at the older man, the man who was almost his father-in-law. "Is she, Arthur? Is that where she is? Of course, it was a terrible, clumsy accident. That waiter—" "Yes," Marcus said, his eyes like steel. "The waiter. We will certainly find out exactly what happened." He turned on his heel and walked out of the ballroom, not toward the bridal suite, but up the stairs to the mezzanine study, where Mr. Harrison was already waiting. Genevieve Sterling was not, in fact, in the powder room crying. She was just outside the ballroom doors, sipping fresh champagne, accepting the sympathies of her friends. "You were so brave, darling," one whispered. She looked like a drowned rat. "I just feel terrible," Genevieve said, taking a delicate sip. "I hope she has a backup dress. Perhaps something from a department store." Her friends giggled. Genevieve smiled. The first move was hers. The mezzanine study was soundproof. Mr. Harrison had 3 laptops open when Marcus walked in. "Talk to me, Harrison." "It's worse than we thought, sir," Harrison said, not looking up from the screens. The hotel's primary angle from the northeast corner, timestamp 2014-02. He played the video. It was high definition. It showed Miguel, the waiter, walking. It showed Genevieve standing up. It showed her stepping backwards into his path. It was clear. It was deliberate. "That's enough," Marcus said, clenching his fists. "That's assault. I'll have her removed." "Wait, sir," Harrison said, holding up a hand. "It's worse. I cross-referenced with a guest's social media upload." He played a second video, taken from a table near the dance floor. This one captured Genevieve's face. Just before the accident, she wasn't looking at the guests. She was looking at the waiter. And as Miguel stumbled, just before Chloe was hit, Genevieve smiled. A cold, pleased, reptilian smile. "My God," Marcus whispered. "It's still worse, sir," Harrison said. She didn't just trip him, she planned it. Harrison brought up a third angle from the kitchen service door. 1950. This is 15 minutes before the incident. That's Ms. Sterling. That's Miguel, the waiter. The video showed Genevieve pulling Miguel aside. She was talking to him, flashing her diamond bracelet. She handed him what looked like a wad of cash. She paid him? Marcus was stunned. No, sir. Not to spill. Watch. Harrison zoomed in. Miguel is refusing. He's shaking his head. He looks scared. She's getting angry. Harrison, a passable lip reader, narrated. She's saying, just walk by her. When I toast, it will be easy. She tried to bribe him to spill the coffee. Yes, sir. And he refused. He put the money back in her hand and walked away. He was routed to a different station, but his supervisor moved him back to the main floor 2 minutes before the incident. Ms. Sterling saw him. She realized her bribery plot had failed, so she improvised. She tripped him. Marcus felt a cold rage settle over him, a terrifying, quiet fury that his board of directors knew well. This wasn't an impulse. This wasn't a jealous spat. This was a premeditated attack on his wife. She involved the staff, Marcus said, his voice dangerously quiet. She tried to bribe an innocent man, and when he refused, she made him the scapegoat anyway. He'll be fired. He already has been, sir, Harrison said. Hotel management has him in an office. They want to avoid a lawsuit from Ms. Sterling. Marcus stared at the screen. He saw the smile. He saw the trip. He saw his wife's face contort in pain, and he saw the smirk Genevieve gave her afterward. He made a decision. It was not the decision of a hot-headed groom. It was the decision of a billionaire. Harrison, he said, get Miguel. Bring him to this room. Now. Tell hotel management he is not to be touched, or I will buy this hotel and turn it into a parking lot. Yes, sir. And patch the ballroom's AV system to this laptop. I want full control of those projector screens. Sir. Harrison looked up, a rare flash of surprise on his face. What are you planning? Beatrice was right about one thing, Marcus said, straightening his tie. You don't win by running. You win by making it so the other person can never play the game again. He turned and walked to the door, but not before stopping. And Harrison? Find out where Chloe's father, David, banks. The local bank in Oakhaven. I need the name of it, and find out the exact name of that community center he's always talking about. Sir, immediately. Marcus left the study and went to the bridal suite. He knocked gently. Chloe? It's me. The door opened. Chloe was in a simple white silk bathrobe, her eyes red and puffy. The ruined dress was in a heap on the floor. Her shoulders were red. Beatrice was here, Chloe whispered, her voice broken. She said I'm an embarrassment, that I don't belong. She looked up at him, her heart in her eyes. Is she right, Marcus? Did I ruin this? Am I not strong enough for this world? Marcus looked at the woman he loved, the kind, funny, brilliant woman who had saved him from a life he didn't want. He saw the burn on her skin and the doubt in her eyes. He gently touched her face. Your mother-in-law is an expert in many things, Chloe. But she is wrong about you. You're not an embarrassment. You're the best person I've ever known. And you're not just strong enough for this world. You're better than it. But my dress. Genevieve, everyone is. Genevieve made a mistake, Marcus said, his voice soft, but with an edge of pure iron. She thinks she's playing a game of society rules. She's about to find out she's playing my game, and my game has consequences. He gestured to the closet. Harrison had a backup dress sent, just in case. It's not your mother's, I know, but it's beautiful. Chloe looked. It was an elegant, simple, ivory-white evening gown. "Put it on," Marcus said, "and come with me. We have a wedding to finish." "What are you going to do?" Chloe asked, a flicker of fear in her eyes. "I'm going to show them," Marcus said, kissing her forehead, "what real power looks like. I'm going to show them who Chloe Thorne is." Chloe looked at the dress, then back at her husband. The doubt was fading, replaced by a slow-burning resolve. She nodded. "Give me 5 minutes." When Marcus and Chloe Thorne re-entered the ballroom, a hush fell. Chloe was wearing the ivory gown. Her hair was pulled back in a simple, elegant chignon. Her head was held high. She was not the crying girl who had fled. She was the wife of Marcus Thorne, and she walked beside him, her hand firmly in his. Beatrice Thorne's eyes widened. She saw the look on her son's face and felt the first prickle of alarm. Genevieve Sterling, who had returned to her table, smirked. "Round 2, she whispered to her friend. She actually came back for more. Marcus led Chloe to the dance floor, but he didn't signal the band. He walked to the microphone. Mr. Harrison was standing discreetly by the AV booth and gave a subtle nod. "Thank you all for your patience," Marcus began, his voice calm and filling the room. "I know there was some concern about my wife. As you can see, she is fine." He smiled at Chloe, who smiled back. "Weddings are a time for truth," Marcus continued, his gaze sweeping the room. "And I've just learned a very important truth. We are surrounded by friends, by family, and by others. Some people come to celebrate love. Others come for different reasons." He looked directly at the Sterling table. "Ms. Genevieve Sterling, could you please stand up?" A spotlight hit Genevieve. She looked startled, but recovered quickly, standing with a practiced grace, a confused, "Who me?" look on her face. "Genevieve," Marcus said, "you expressed such profound concern for what happened. You called it a terrible accident." "It was, Marcus," Genevieve said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "That poor, clumsy waiter. I just feel awful." "I'm sure you do," Marcus said. "I was so concerned about the incident. I had my security team, along with the hotel staff, review the security footage. You know, in this day and age, with HD cameras everywhere, it's so easy to see what really happened." Genevieve's smile faltered. Her father, Arthur, half rose from his chair. "Now, Marcus, what's the meaning of this? You're not accusing my daughter." "I'm not accusing anyone," Marcus said. "I'm just showing the tape." And on the 2 massive projector screens on either side of the ballroom, the video played. It was the first angle. The high-def shot. The room gasped as one. They saw Genevieve step directly into the waiter's path. They saw the trip. They heard the audio track of her gasping, "Oh my goodness!" "A terrible accident," Marcus's voice boomed over the speakers. "But perhaps not the whole story. Let's look at another angle. From a guest's phone. Let's zoom in." The screen now showed Genevieve's face. The room saw the premeditated look. They saw her smile as Miguel stumbled. They saw the smirk of triumph. The whispers in the room turned into a roar of disbelief. She did it on purpose," someone shouted. Genevieve was ashen. She looked like she had been struck by lightning. That's been edited. That's a fake. Marcus, how dare you?" "Is it, Genevieve?" Marcus's voice was ice. "Then perhaps you can explain the 3rd video." The 3rd video played. The kitchen door. Genevieve trying to bribe Miguel. The room saw him, a young man, shaking his head, refusing her money. The entire ballroom was now in a state of stunned, horrified silence. Arthur Sterling had collapsed back into his chair, his face crimson. Beatrice Thorne looked at her son, not with anger, but with a dawning, terrible awe. "This is the Billionaire Groom's response," a tech journalist whispered, already typing furiously on his phone. "Genevieve," Marcus said, his voice dropping. The screens went black. The spotlight remained on her, pinning her like an insect. "You didn't just assault my wife. You didn't just try to ruin my wedding. You tried to bribe an innocent man. And when your pathetic attempt failed, you framed him for your own malicious act. You, Genevieve, are a liar, a bully, and a criminal." "Security!" Genevieve shrieked. "Father, do something!" "Oh, security is here," Marcus said. "But they're not for me." Two NYPD officers, who had been waiting discreetly in the lobby at Mr. Harrison's request, stepped into the ballroom. "But just having you arrested, that's too simple," Marcus said, shaking his head. "That's not a fitting response. You see, you didn't just attack Chloe. You attacked my family. And you did it because I chose her over your family's merger." He turned to Arthur Sterling. "Arthur, you and I, and our lawyers from Skadden Arps, have been working for 6 months on the $500 million merger between Thorn Industries and Sterling Holdings. A deal based, as you said, on mutual trust. As of 2030 this evening, that deal is void." Arthur Sterling's mouth opened. No sound came out. "But I'm not just cancelling the deal," Marcus continued, as the room listened, paralyzed. "I'm liquidating the $500 million in assets I had allocated for that purchase. And I am using that entire sum, $500,000, to create a new charitable foundation." He turned and smiled at his wife, taking her hand. "It will be called the Chloe Thorn Foundation for Community Development. Its mission will be to support underprivileged communities, starting with her hometown of Oak Haven, Oregon." He looked at Chloe's father, David. "David, you mentioned the community center roof was leaking? I think the Chloe Thorn Foundation's first act will be to build an entirely new center, with a library, a computer lab, and a new roof. Congratulations, you're on the board." Chloe gasped, tears welling in her eyes, this time tears of joy. Marcus turned back to a catatonic Genevieve. "Your little, petty, cruel act, your attempt to humiliate my wife by ruining her dress, has just resulted in a $500 million fund for the people you look down on. Your hate just built a new library. Your spite will fund thousands of scholarships." He wasn't done. "Oh," he said, as if just remembering. "And Miguel? The waiter you tried to frame? He's not fired. He's been promoted. And the Chloe Thorn Foundation is giving him a full 4-year scholarship to the Cornell University School of Hotel Administration. He'll probably own this hotel one day." A smatter of applause started, then grew into a thunderous standing ovation. Marcus Thorn looked at Genevieve Sterling, who was now sobbing, her face a mask of true, utter ruin. "Get her out of my sight." The officers stepped forward. "Ms. Sterling, you need to come with us." As they escorted a hysterical Genevieve and her apoplectic father out of the ballroom, Marcus Thorn turned to his band. "Play our song," he said. He took his wife, Chloe Thorn, in his arms, and as the room full of 1,000 stunned guests watched, they finally had their first dance. The fallout was not just swift, it was biblical. By 9 a.m. the next morning, the Sterling spill, or Mall Coffee Bride scandal, was the #1 trending topic worldwide. The videos Marcus had played were leaked, likely by Harrison himself, and had millions of views. It wasn't just a society gossip story, it was a business story. By 9:30 a.m., when the market opened, Sterling Holdings stock, SHC, plummeted. It opened down 40%. Traders and investors, seeing the cancellation of the $500 million Thorn merger, panicked. But it was worse than that. The videos had shown the world the character of the Sterling family. The name was toxic. Arthur Sterling's phone rang off the hook. His board members were demanding an emergency meeting. His creditors were calling in their loans. The old money empire, built on reputation and handshakes, was dissolving in real time. Genevieve was released on bail, but she was a social pariah. Her friends stopped answering her calls. Her invitations to the Met Gala, to the Aspen retreats, to everything, were rescinded. By the end of the week, Sterling Holdings was forced to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Arthur Sterling, in a desperate attempt to save his company, was forced to oust his own daughter from the board and publicly condemn her actions. It wasn't enough. The company was carved up and sold for parts. The Sterlings lost everything. Their Hamptons estate was foreclosed. Their name was synonymous with disgrace. But while one empire fell, another was being built. Marcus and Chloe skipped their planned, lavish honeymoon to Fiji. Instead, they flew to Oak Haven, Oregon. They landed at the small municipal airport in Marcus's Gulf Stream, to the astonishment of the entire town. Chloe, still in her simple white gown from the reception, walked into the Oak Haven pantry to find her parents, David and Mary, wiping down tables, waiting for the morning coffee rush. We saw it on the news, honey," Mary said, rushing to hug her. "Are you all right? That woman, what she did?" "I'm fine, Mom," Chloe said, hugging her tight. "I'm more than fine." Marcus walked in behind her, carrying 2 large coffee thermoses. "Mary, David," he said, smiling, "I believe we have a community center to discuss." For the next 2 weeks, Marcus and Chloe worked out of a booth in the diner. Chloe, with her intimate knowledge of the town, and Marcus, with his army of lawyers and architects on video call, designed the new Chloe Thorne Community Center. It wasn't just a building, it was a promise. They held a town hall. Marcus, in jeans and a flannel shirt, a far cry from his wedding tux, stood before the town council. The Chloe Thorne Foundation will be endowing Oak Haven with an initial grant of $50 million, he announced. The town council president fainted. The money wasn't just for the center. It was for revitalizing Main Street, for new equipment for the volunteer fire department, and for a scholarship fund that guaranteed every Oak Haven High graduate a full ride to college. Chloe took the podium. She was no longer the intimidated baker. She was a leader. "This money, it came from a place of hate," she said, her voice steady. "It was meant to hurt me, to tell me I wasn't good enough. But we, here in Oak Haven, know what good enough means. It means community. It means kindness. And we are going to use this to show the world what real strength looks like." The town erupted. The press, of course, descended on Oak Haven. But instead of a humiliated bride, they found a confident, beloved philanthropist, directing construction crews and tasting pie recipes. She was the billionaire's wife, but she was also, and always, Chloe the baker. 1 year to the day. The date was not a coincidence. Chloe had circled it on her calendar. October 26th. The anniversary of her wedding, the anniversary of her humiliation, and now the anniversary of her ascendance. She stood on a polished cedar stage, not in a borrowed dress, but in a sharp, custom-made navy blue pantsuit. Her hair was cut in a practical, elegant bob. She was not the trembling bride, she was the CEO. Behind her, a building of gleaming Oregon timber and glass reflected the bright autumn sun. The sign, carved in simple, bold letters, read, "The Chloe Thorne Community Center and Foundation, Oak Haven Campus." The town's entire population of Rouse 200 was there, mixed with a sea of over 200 journalists, politicians, and philanthropists who had flown in on private jets that crowded Oak Haven's tiny municipal airstrip. Marcus Thorne stood in the front row, his eyes hidden behind sunglasses, but the smile on his face was visible from the back row. He held their 1-month-old son, Richard David Thorne, bundled against the chill. Next to him sat Chloe's parents, Mary and David, weeping openly. In the second row, seated with a ramrod-straight spine, was Beatrice Thorne. Her face was an unreadable, icy mask. "When I left Oakhaven for New York," Chloe said, her voice amplified by the speakers, clear and steady, "I thought I was moving to a bigger world. I thought the power was there, in the high-rises and the boardrooms." She paused, looking at the new building. It was magnificent. It housed the Mary and David Jenkins Library, a state-of-the-art kitchen for vocational training in the culinary arts, a tech lab sponsored by Thorne Industries, and a fully equipped gymnasium. "I was wrong," Chloe continued. "The world is not bigger in New York. It's just louder. The real power was always here. It was in my mother's kitchen. It was in my father's workshop. It was in this community, where people help each other not because of a merger, but because it's the right thing to do. The Chloe Thorne Foundation isn't bringing power to Oakhaven. It's here to amplify the power that always existed." The crowd erupted in a standing ovation. "They call her the Angel of Oakhaven," a Forbes reporter whispered into his recorder. "A year ago, she was a literal nobody, a Cinderella story. Now, she's managing a $500 million endowment that's become the most disruptive force in American philanthropy. She's not just a feel-good story. She's a power story." As Chloe cut the ribbon, one man stepped forward from the crowd. He was young, well-dressed, and carried himself with a new, quiet confidence. "On behalf of the Foundation's first scholarship recipient," he said, his voice thick with emotion, I just want to say thank you." It was Miguel, the waiter. He was in his second year at Cornell's hotel administration program, flying high with a 4.0 GPA. The Foundation had not only paid his tuition, but had also settled his family's debts, moving them out of their cramped apartment. Chloe stepped off the stage and embraced him. "You don't thank us, Miguel," she said, just loud enough for the front row to hear. "We thank you. You were the first person who showed us what real integrity looks like." The applause was deafening. Marcus looked on, his pride a tangible thing. But as the crowd moved inside to tour the new facility, a black sedan pulled up to the edge of the police barricade. A different kind of journalist stepped out, one from a tabloid rag called The New York Standard. He wasn't here for the good news. He was here for the "Where are they now?" He approached a local man. "Great story, right? But what about the other woman, Genevieve Sterling? Any idea what happened to her?" The local shrugged. "Heard she lost everything. Good riddance." The reporter, Robert Peston, smiled. He had an idea. He got back in his car and drove to the nearest town with cell service. He made a call to a private investigator in New York. "Find her," he said. "Find Genevieve Sterling. I want to know where the Coffee Queen is holding court these days." While Chloe gave interviews, Beatrice Thorne walked through the new center. She was alone. She avoided the crowds, her heels clicking on the polished concrete floors. She was, by nature, a critic. She was looking for flaws. She found none. She walked into the library. It was filled with light, with cozy reading nooks, and a children's section where her own grandson, Richard, would one day read. She walked into the tech lab. It was run by Thorne Industries engineers, streaming in live from Palo Alto, teaching Oakhaven kids how to code. It was efficient. It was smart. Finally, she walked into the kitchen. It was perfect. It wasn't just a kitchen. It was a commercial-grade bakery, a culinary school. Double-stack convection ovens, marble countertops for pastry, walk-in freezers, proofing cabinets. It was better than the kitchen at the plaza. In the center of the room, on a simple wooden baker's peel, was a framed photograph. It was the only photo in the room. It was Chloe's ruined, coffee-stained wedding dress, hung on a mannequin, photographed before it was thrown away. Beatrice stared at it. A symbol of humiliation, repurposed as a symbol of victory. It's a reminder. Beatrice turned. Chloe was standing in the doorway, wiping flour from her hands. She had slipped away from the press to knead a ceremonial first loaf. A reminder of what? Beatrice asked, her voice cool. Of the price of admission, Chloe said. She walked past Beatrice and began expertly shaping a sourdough boule. Of what happens when you underestimate people. The air in the kitchen was suddenly cold, despite the warmth from the ovens. The two women were alone for the first time since the wedding. "You've done well, Chloe," Beatrice said, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "You've made a remarkable splash. Marcus is very proud." "Are you proud, Beatrice?" Chloe asked, not looking up from the dough. Beatrice stiffened. "I am proud that my family's name is associated with successful ventures. This is a successful venture." "That's not what I asked." Chloe finished the loaf and slid it into the oven. She turned, leaning back against the steel counter, crossing her arms. The power dynamic for the first time was completely inverted. This was Chloe's kitchen, Chloe's building, Chloe's world. "You came to my bridal suite," Chloe said, her voice quiet but sharp as a knife. "You found me in pieces, burned and humiliated, and you told me I was an embarrassment. You told me I was a field mouse in a snake pit. You told me I had failed your son." "I was," Beatrice began. "I was upset. The event." "You were right," Chloe cut in. "I was a field mouse. I was terrified. I was in pain. And you, my new mother, the matriarch of my new family, you left me there to bleed. You didn't help me. You didn't defend me. You attacked me. I was trying to prepare you for this world." Beatrice's voice rose, her icy composure cracking. "I was trying to show you that there is no room for weakness. Genevieve won that skirmish. I was furious that you let her." "And what did you do?" Chloe asked. "You went back downstairs to make excuses. You surrendered. I was the one who put on a new dress. I was the one who walked back into that ballroom. And my husband, your son, was the one who ended the war." Chloe stepped closer. "You talk about strength, Beatrice. But when it mattered, you were a coward. You were so busy protecting your social standing that you forgot to protect your family. You sided with the snakes." Beatrice Thorne, a woman who had eviscerated senators and CEOs with a single look, was speechless. She was trembling with a rage that was, for the first time, laced with shame. Chloe saw the crack in the facade. She didn't press it. She didn't want to break her. She wanted to rebuild her. The world you and Arthur Sterling built. "It's over, Beatrice," Chloe said, her voice softening just a little. "The old rules are gone. The Sterlings are bankrupt. Their name is a punchline. Your old guard friends, they're irrelevant. Their power was built on exclusion, on closed doors, on who they knew. My power, our power, is built on this." She gestured to the kitchen, on opening doors, on what we can do, on what we can build. She walked to her new, small office, just off the kitchen. Beatrice, like a moth to a flame, followed. "The Chloe Thorne Foundation is opening its national headquarters in New York next month," Chloe said, sitting behind her desk. She gestured to the chair opposite her. Beatrice, mechanically, sat. "It's a different kind of challenge," Chloe continued. "Oak Haven was easy. These people are my family. New York, that's the real snake pit. I need someone to run the New York Gala. I need someone to navigate the political and social minefields. I need someone to interface with the old money and bend them to our new rules. I need someone who can be formidable. Beatrice looked up, her sharp mind instantly seeing the chessboard. You're offering me a position? I'm offering you a choice, Chloe said flatly. You are a brilliant, capable, and, frankly, ruthless woman, Beatrice. Your talents are wasted on luncheon committees and garden parties, but your world is gone. You can either fade into obscurity as Marcus Thorne's mother, a society dowager who just shows up for Christmas, or you can join the new world. You can work for this foundation. You can work for me. The audacity of it, the sheer, magnificent gall, to be offered a job by her daughter-in-law, the baker. Beatrice Thorne stared at Chloe. The field mouse was gone. In her place was a lioness, and Beatrice realized the truth. Chloe wasn't just marrying into the Thorne legacy. She was the Thorne legacy now. She was the future. And Beatrice hated being irrelevant. A slow, cold, and utterly genuine smile spread across Beatrice Thorne's face. It was the first real smile Chloe had ever seen from her. A gala, you say? Beatrice said, leaning forward. The Met's theme this year is a disaster. We could easily eclipse them. The New York Women's Shelter. I've been on their board. It's a mess. We could absorb their operations within 6 months if we're aggressive. Chloe smiled back. I was thinking the same thing. I'll have the board packet sent to your hotel. Don't bother, Beatrice said, standing up and smoothing her suit. I'll read it on the plane. And Chloe, about the gala. We are not serving coffee. It's tacky. She walked out. Chloe let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She had won. She hadn't just defeated her enemy. She had recruited her. 2,000 miles away, in a grey 4th-floor walk-up in Queens, New York, a phone rang. Robert Peston, the tabloid reporter, had found her. The PI had tracked her through a series of Shell LLCs and cashier's checks. Genevieve Sterling, the former heiress to a billion-dollar energy empire, was living under the name Jennifer Stone. Her passport was seized pending the final settlement of her criminal and civil cases. She was broke. Peston knocked on the flimsy door. Ms. Otto Stone? Genevieve? Robert Peston, New York Standard. I just want to talk. The door opened a crack, held by a chain. The eye that peered out was bloodshot, paranoid. Go away. Her voice was a hoarse whisper. I'm doing a story on the anniversary, Peston said, sliding his press pass into the crack. The wedding, the coffee, the foundation. People want to know your side. You were the victim, right? A woman scorned? The chain rattled and the door opened. The apartment was a disaster. Empty wine bottles, take-out containers. The woman standing there was unrecognizable. Her hair was brittle and unwashed. Her emerald green dress was gone, replaced by a stained bathrobe. She was a ghost, haunted by the life she had destroyed. Victim? She hissed, her face contorting. She stole him. She stole my life. That baker. That charity. That was my money. That was my merger. Peston's recorder was on. This was gold. So you admit the merger was the reason? Arthur, my father. He had a heart attack, Genevieve rambled, pacing the small room. He's in a state facility. He doesn't even know my name. They took everything. The house in the Hamptons. The plane. My friends. She spat the word. They won't even look at me. And she's on the cover of Forbes. So the coffee, Peston pushed. Was it an accident? Tell me your side. Genevieve stopped. She looked at Peston, a strange, chilling lucidity in her eyes. An accident? She laughed, a dry, rattling sound. Of course it wasn't an accident. I wanted to see her cry. I wanted everyone to see the trash she was. I wanted to see her run. And she did, Peston offered. Yes, she did, Genevieve whispered, a faint, triumphant smile on her face. She ran. I won. Peston looked around the squalid apartment at this broken, delusional woman. Yes, Ms. Sterling, he said, turning off his recorder. You sure did. He left her there, alone with her victory. That night, the town of Oakhaven was quiet. The press had flown home, their stories filed. The new community center was dark, save for a single light on the roof. Marcus found Chloe sitting on a bench on the rooftop terrace, bundled in a blanket. It was designed to look exactly like the roof of the old diner where they had first talked. He sat beside her, wrapping his arms around her and their son, who was sleeping sound in his arms. So, CEO Thorne, Marcus whispered, how does it feel? You just conquered my mother. I'm fairly certain that makes you the supreme ruler of the universe. Chloe laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. She's complicated. But she's on our side now, I think. She respects power. And you, my love, are the most powerful person I know. They sat in comfortable silence, looking up at the clear Oregon stars. It's funny, Chloe said, her voice soft. A year ago, I was standing in that ballroom, covered in coffee, and I thought my life was over. I felt so small. I felt like that field mouse Beatrice talked about. All I wanted was to run home. You are home, Marcus said, kissing the top of her head. Genevieve, what she did, Chloe mused. It was so hateful, so pointless. All that energy, all that planning, just to make me cry, just to ruin a dress. And look what she did instead, Marcus said. He looked at the town below them, sleeping peacefully, and at the magnificent building beneath them. Her act of hate funded a library. Her spite will send hundreds of kids to college. Her cruelty built a place of kindness. He turned her face to his. She tried to leave a permanent stain, Chloe, but she failed. She didn't stain you. She just gave you the capital to rebuild a town. Our son, Chloe whispered, touching Richard's cheek. He's going to grow up here. He's going to learn to bake in that kitchen and code in that lab. And he's going to know that his mother is the woman who turned the worst day of her life into the best thing that ever happened to this town. You didn't just marry into a legacy, Chloe. You built one. And it's an empire of kindness. Chloe smiled, a real, radiant smile, free of all the ghosts of the past year. I do have one regret, though. What's that? I never got to taste the wedding cake, she said, with a playful glint in her eye. Marcus laughed. I'll have my pilot fly to Paris. We'll get you a better one. Don't be silly, she said, standing up and pulling him toward the door. I've got a new oven downstairs, and I have the perfect recipe. Come on, Mark. You can help me knead. He followed his wife, the billionaire and the baker, into the warmth of the kitchen they had built, leaving the past behind, and stepping into the future they owned. The story of Chloe and Marcus Thorne shows that true power isn't about the money you have, but about the character you show. Genevieve Sterling had wealth, but she lacked grace, and in one cruel moment, she lost everything. Chloe had only her kindness, and with it, she gained the world and changed it for the better. Karma, as they say, always serves its just desserts, even if it sometimes starts with a hot cup of coffee. What did you think of Marcus's response? Was it the perfect revenge, or should he have done more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. If you were moved by Chloe's story, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that good always wins. And for more real-life dramatic stories that will leave you speechless, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell.